You walk around this building, and everyone is so supportive and so excited about what is happening with the Fever.
A statement made in Indianapolis is a topic of continuous discussion within the basketball community. The Fever's general manager, Amber Cox, finally spoke up. Her comments about Caitlin Clark also went beyond a corporate press release. It painted a picture that most fans have never seen because it was straightforward, honest, and packed with facts. There is more to the reality about what's truly going on within that company than what you've read in a headline. Hold on tight because this is a multi-layered story. Each layer will also change how you see Indiana during the Caitlin Clark era. Before we even talk about what Cox said, let's go back to the beginning of this whole problem. When Caitlin Clark, the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, left the stage, nobody could have foreseen what would unfold. The basketball community was well aware. Records were broken at the University of Iowa, the most well-liked athlete in women's sports history. Millions of people bought tickets, bought jerseys, and watched. Instead than just choosing a player, the Fever was controlling a movement. Expectations, criticism, and pressure that most franchises had never experienced came with that movement. This was known to the front desk staff. But knowing something in theory and actually experiencing it are very different. Caitlin Clark had a fantastic rookie season in 2024. With 8, she led the league. 19 assists on average and 4 assists per game. 2 points. She guided a feverish team that had advanced to the postseason from both the first and 9th seasons. She was named Rookie of the Year. She was selected for the WNBA's inaugural squad. She also set records for viewership, ticket sales, and jersey sales. Sales of the Fever's jerseys alone rose by 1,193%. Entire stadia were sold out when Indiana came. Networks were clearing prime-time slots. In women's basketball, it was unheard of. A 22-year-old young man trying to learn how to run a professional club while taking on the responsibilities of an entire sport was tucked away in the locker room amid all of this chaos. Caitlin Clark, but then something unexpected happened, and everything was on the verge of disintegrating. For the 2025 season, everything was supposed to come together. The new coach, Stephanie White, implemented a revised offensive plan. Veterans were brought in. The roster contained more players. Expectations were really high. But on almost the first day of the season, the injury bug started to bite. Caitlin Clark also sustained a left quad injury in May. A left groin injury happened in June, and the wound didn't even heal. Just when she was about to make a comeback, she sustained a right groin injury on July 15th. And with that one, it was all over. Game after game, she was spotted on the sidelines dressed in street clothes. Supporters were agitated. Loud critics were present. Rumors about her health, the team's communication, and the actual state of affairs at Gainbridge Fieldhouse were rife on every possible platform. Then there came the September 4th social media post that made everyone in the basketball community stop scrolling. Caitlin Clark confirmed that she was done for the year. "Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling," she remarked. The season was over. She had only played in 13 games. But nobody was paying enough attention to this at the time. The Fever's general manager was going to say something far more important than most people realized. Amber Cox didn't mince words as she took the microphone. She made it very clear that Caitlin Clark had complied with all of the requirements in order to be allowed to return to that court. In exit interviews with the crew, Cox stated that no one put in more effort than Caitlin. Caitlin was the one who most desired to be on the court. Such statements would not be made by an executive protecting the brand. Those are the words of someone who has witnessed a player fail due to no fault of her own and battle through rehabilitation on a daily basis. According to Cox's formal written statement, Clark worked out for hours each day in an attempt to recover. She went on, "The organization decided to shut her down because there was simply not enough time left in the season for her to safely return. Long-term health will always take precedence over a risky comeback, as Amber Cox made clear. But the injuries have nothing to do with Cox's most inflammatory statement. It had to do with the future. Things start to become intriguing at this point. When asked about the future by reporters, Cox did not hedge. When talking about potential or possibilities, She avoided using unclear terminology. She looked them in the eye and said she thought they would see Caitlin Clark soar to new heights when she returned in 2026. Cox answered, "I think we're going to see another level. It is unimaginable to even think of. Remember that this is a player that averaged 16, 5 and 8 points. During a season marred by injuries in 2025, he averaged 8 assists per game in just 13 games. He was chosen for the All-Star team for the second consecutive year. Despite playing only a little part of the season, she dominated the national conversation about women's basketball, and the team's manager asserts that she hasn't even used any brand new equipment yet. It's not a statement for public relations. It should be noted by the rest of the WNBA. But it wasn't just Caitlin Clark's talent that gave Amber Cox more self-assurance. She also revealed another facet of Clark's management of her sidelines time. This is the part of the story that distinguishes Clark from the others. When they are injured and unable to compete, most elite athletes go dark. They can occasionally be seen at games. They wave to the audience before disappearing into the training area. That wasn't done by Caitlin Clark. And when she was sidelined due to an injury, Clark was on that plane for every road trip the Fever took. She was vocal, involved, and focused despite sitting on the bench during every game, supporting teammates in real time. Cox described her as an excellent friend and leader during a time when most players would have quietly accepted a lower role. Kelsey Mitchell, who took on the offensive load when Caitlin Clark was sidelined and scored a career-high 20 points per game, stated in a podcast interview that she was angry about Clark's timing but emphasized that bringing her back at 100% was always the best course of action. "I've had a lot of injuries because I'm a person who has had 11 surgeries," said Kelsey Mitchell. "I see things differently now that I have that perspective." Even though he was crippled, Clark's influence was altering the way this unit operated. Furthermore, it wasn't a coincidence. The more you look around the Fever's locker room, the more you realize that they have a genuine chemistry that no front office can match. Teammates talked about the Trace Leches, a close-knit group that included Clark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham. Players discussed Clark's pregame routines with Aaliyah Boston even as they watched from the bench. When asked about the culture, Kelly Krauskopf, president of the Fever, said that the youthful core had made one specific request before the 2025 season began. They objected to the front office pursuing a major celebrity signing. They wanted their locker room to be secure. The players' exact words were, "Protect the culture that we've started." You see, a team that is crumbling inside doesn't speak like that. That is the rhetoric of a group that knows what they have and does not want it altered. But not everyone has been ready to accept them. And because of the scandal surrounding this locker room, everything was in danger of collapsing before it had a chance to breathe. If you were watching the WNBA in late 2024, you remember the moment Cheryl Swoops lit a match on Gil's Arena. The Hall of Famer intimated that players were uncomfortable with Caitlin Clark's attention and said that there was a great deal of strife within the Indiana Fever group. Swoops said, "There's a lot of other stuff going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be." On the internet, the claim swiftly gained popularity. It was one of the most talked about stories in women's basketball for weeks, complete with debates, screenshots, and opinions. There was just one problem. When asked about the specifics, Cheryl Swoops admitted she wasn't in the locker room. There was no evidence. No player co-signed the story. During a different March Madness show in April 2025, Caitlin Clark directly addressed the rumors while seated with Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. She acknowledged that people generally believe they know what goes on behind closed doors and stated that the personnel within that facility were the only ones who really knew the reality. She implied that the commotion had less to do with anything happening in Indiana and more to do with those who were successful. Then, in 2025, the Indiana Fever's on-court performance in the absence of their idol was more powerful than any news conference. Think about what Indiana managed to accomplish over the season without Caitlin Clark. They won the WNBA Commissioner's Cup for the first time in team history. They defeated the Atlanta Dream in the first round of the playoffs. They defeated the Las Vegas Aces, one of the most prestigious teams in the WNBA, in overtime after advancing to a winner-take-all Game 5 in the playoffs. Their first trip to the WNBA Finals in over a decade was just one win away. On every bench and sidelines, Clark was providing defensive assignments, yelling encouragement, and celebrating every basket as if she had made it herself without their most important player. Amber Cox's evaluation of her leadership wasn't just favorable. It was accurate. The numbers, results, and spirit of that run all indicated a franchise that had internalized it, even if Clark was unable to demonstrate her intensity on the court. Things start to become serious at this point. Because the Indiana Fever, led by Amber Cox, are hoping for more than simply a comeback season in 2026. They are hoping for a possible dynasty. The lengthy negotiations between the WNBA and the Players' Union, which lasted more than a year before being resolved in early 2026, caused the whole offseason to be compressed into a few weeks. The Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo, two new teams, had their league rosters changed by expansion drafts. Despite losing 2 players due to the sickness, Cox maintained his composure. Her message was consistent from the season's conclusion to every roster change that followed. Their first goal is to keep Kelsey Mitchell in a Fever uniform. Cox told reporters, "I'm going to sound like a broken record from last year. The first priority will be to keep Kelsey Mitchell wearing a Fever jersey." Going into the upcoming season, Indiana has the makings of the most complete core in the league, with Mitchell back in the mix and Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston already under contract. Even so, the basketball community didn't recoil because of the headline. When Caitlin Clark made an appearance as a special contributor on Basketball Night in America with legends like Carmelo Anthony, Vince Carter, and Tracy McGrady, even Amber Cox was overjoyed. Cox wrote on social media, "This will be very insightful and entertaining. It comes easy to me to tuck CC." NBC executive producer Sam Flood described Clark as the most renowned figure in basketball, not collegiate or women's basketball. Stop completely. Clark is now working on such platform even before the May 8 start of the 2026 WNBA season. When asked about the Fever's chances of winning the title on that NBC platform, Clark also said without hesitation. She said, "I think we're going to be the favorite to win it all. I think it adds a little pressure, but that's what you like about it. But our support staff, coach, and squad are all outstanding. I'm ecstatic." The media did not influence that reaction. That individual had been silently developing and simmering in desire while watching from the sidelines for an entire season, and now she was ready to release everything she had been holding inside. And Cox's confidence in that Caitlin Clark's appearance? This is why the entire scenario worries the rest of the WNBA. This is what the complete image tells you when you stand back and look at it clearly. Amber Cox didn't just speak up to calm her fans' fears or handle the bad press after a lackluster season. She spoke up because she has personally witnessed what this player is capable of, endured the chaos of the spotlight, handled the rumors and controversy, maintained unity in the locker room when injuries came from all directions, and came away from the experience more certain than ever that Caitlin Clark hasn't yet realized her full potential. The teammates have seen it. The coach has said as much. The GM has confirmed it. And now, with a deeper roster, real hunger, and a whole year of suffering to refine them into something more dangerous and difficult, the club is ready for the 2026 season. The only issue that remains is if the rest of the WNBA is truly ready for what is about to happen. Because if Amber Cox is right, as the evidence suggests, the version of Caitlin Clark that shows up in May 2026 won't look like anything the league has ever seen. Additionally, the teams that have been doubtful of this team for the previous year might want to carefully assess if they are prepared for what it actually involves. A remark made in Indianapolis has generated a lot of discussion among the basketball world. The Fever's general manager, Amber Cox, finally spoke up. Her comments about Caitlin Clark also went beyond a corporate press release. It painted a picture that most fans have never seen because it was straightforward, honest, and packed with facts. There is more to the reality about what's truly going on within that company than what you've read in a headline. Hold on, for this is a multi-layered tale that will change the way you think about Indiana during the Caitlin Clark era. Before we even talk about what Cox said, let's go back to the beginning of this whole problem. When Caitlin Clark, the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, left the stage, nobody could have foreseen what would unfold. The basketball community was well aware. The most popular athlete in the history of women's sports, a record-breaking Iowa crowd, and millions of tickets and jerseys sold. Instead than just choosing a player, the Fever was controlling a movement. Expectations, criticism, and pressure that most franchises never experienced came along with that movement. The front desk was aware of this, but understanding something in theory and really experiencing it are very different. Clark had a fantastic rookie season in 2024. With 19, she lead the league. An average of 2 points per game. To ensure you don't miss anything, please leave a comment, subscribe, and turn on all alerts. Once you click the video on the screen, we'll see you in the next one.